Imagine this. Your son dies and you bury him. A week later, he sits up in bed, calls for bone broth, and begins speaking with a clarity he never had before. By day, he seems alive, sharper than ever. But every night, his body goes cold and stiff, as if he's gone again. Who is this child? Is he your son or something else entirely? And what hidden debt could bind your family to the realm of the dead? But before we begin, if you're drawn to stories with mystery, meaning, and the otherworldly, to legends passed down as truth, then this is the channel for you. I share new stories each week, drawn from folklore, forgotten history, and strange events that linger at the edge of belief. So tap the like button and subscribe with all notifications on so you never miss what's next. Let's begin. During the late Ming Dynasty in the city of Changzhou, a bustling river town in southeastern China, lived a man named Li Hua. The rich canals and fields supported thriving trade, and as a merchant, the region had made him well off, and neighbors regarded him as both prosperous and upright. Yet behind his reputation lay a complicated past. As a young man, he had traded widely, sometimes taking bold risks and making enemies, sometimes helping others by quiet acts of generosity. By the time he passed 50, he had grown into a man respected for his fairness and his endurance, seeming to lack nothing except a son. He and his wife had only one child, a daughter named Xiaohui. She was their joy, gentle and quick to smile, and they treasured her beyond words. But joy is fragile. When she was just 14, Xiaohui fell ill. No medicine worked. She died suddenly, leaving the house silent, leaving her parents with nothing but grief. Though they grieved terribly, Li and his wife longed for another child, hoping that joy might return to their home. In time, his wife became pregnant again, and a year later, she had a boy. It felt as though heaven had given them a second chance. They called him Zhu'er, the Pearl Boy, a treasure more precious than anything in their lives. Zhu'er grew tall and sturdy, but there was something odd about him. He could barely speak clearly. At 5 or 6, he still couldn't tell beans from wheat. He seemed slow, clumsy. Yet to Li, none of that mattered. This was his son. This was his treasure. He cared for him with complete devotion. It was during this unsettled time that a wandering monk entered the town. He went door to door, saying he came to collect alms, but it was soon clear he was no ordinary beggar. He had only one eye, and his arrival made people whisper. Somehow, he always seemed to know private things about families, secrets he should never have known. People feared him, believing he had come with powers to decide who lived and who died. When he came to Li's door, he demanded 100 strings of cash. That was no small sum. Li offered 10, then 30, but the monk's face hardened. 100, he said, not a coin less. Li lost his temper. He turned him away. As he left, the monk shouted, "You will regret this." Later that night, Zhu'er screamed in pain. He clawed at his bed, his face drained of all color, pale as clay. Li panicked. He ran back to the monk with 80 strings of cash, begging for help. The monk laughed. "What can this poor monk do for you?" When Li returned home, his son was already dead. Mad with grief, Li went straight to the magistrate. Soldiers seized the monk. He was beaten, searched, and on his body, they found 2 wooden figures, a tiny coffin, and 5 flags, tools of black magic. The monk trembled and begged for his life. The magistrate ignored him, ordered the beatings to continue until the monk was dead. Li thanked the court, but when he returned home, the victory was hollow. That night, he sat with his wife in silence, and then they heard small footsteps. A boy of 7 or 8 walked into the room. "Father," he said, "why did you walk so fast? I tried so hard, but I couldn't catch up." Li stared. The boy flickered like smoke. In the blink of an eye, he was right beside him. Li shoved him away. He fell without a sound, then rose again. Father, why push me so? Li and his wife ran, but the boy followed, calling after them, Father, Mother! Cornered, Li demanded to know who he was. The boy bowed. I am from Suzhou. My name is Zhan. I was orphaned at 6. My brother and sister-in-law cast me out. I went to live with my grandfather. One day, while playing beneath a mulberry tree, that wicked monk caught me, killed me, and bound me as a Chengui, a ghost slave. I would have been trapped for forever, but you exposed him, you freed me. Let me stay with you as your son. Li said, the paths of men and ghosts cannot run together. All I ask, the boy pleaded, is a small room, a bed, and a daily cup of cold gruel, nothing more. Li agreed, and from then on, the boy wandered in and out of the house like he belonged there. One day, the boy asked Li's wife, how long has Juar been dead? 7 days, she answered, through tears. The boy nodded. The weather is cold. His body will not have decayed. Open the grave. If he is still whole, I can bring him back. They opened the tomb, and the cold air rushed out, carrying the stillness of death. Inside lay Juar, his body untouched, his face soft and calm, as if he were only sleeping. Li leaned closer, half expecting his son to breathe, half afraid of what he might see. He turned to speak, to call to the strange boy for guidance, but in that instant, the boy was gone, vanished like smoke in the wind. Li's heart pounded. His hands shook as he reached down, lifting the small, heavy body into his arms. Step by step, trembling with both fear and fragile hope, he carried Juar's body back home through the night. The moment Juar was laid on the bed, his eyes opened. He asked for bone broth. Sweat poured down his face. Moments later, he stood up. But this was not the same Juar they had known. The boy who once mumbled and stumbled now spoke in sentences that were crisp and clear. His eyes no longer looked vacant, but shone with awareness, darting from face to face, as if he had just woken from a long dream. Thoughts came to him swiftly. He asked questions, noticed small details, and even teased his parents with a cleverness they had never imagined. Where before, there had been only dull silence. Now, there was a spark and wit. The family stood in awe, hardly believing it was their child, and their sorrow gave way to overflowing joy. At night, though, fear crept back. Juar's body grew cold, his chest still, his limbs rigid as though carved from wood. He lay there breathless, resembling nothing so much as a corpse laid out for burial. His parents tried shaking him, turning him, calling his name over and over, but he gave no sign. The house filled with dread, their silence broken only by anxious whispers and the rustle of blankets. It was only when the first light of dawn crept across the floor that Juar's fingers twitched and his chest rose with a faint breath, and he stirred as though rising out of a deep, strange dream. When asked where he went at night, he explained, "When I was taken by the monk, there was another boy, Gudze. He had been trapped too. But when the monk was beaten to death, the boy too was released from bondage. In the underworld, he was taken in and shown kindness, becoming the foster son of Jiang Yuan Wai, an official among the spirits. Now he lives there in comfort. He often invites me to play, and just last night, he even sent me back home riding a white-nosed horse." His mother asked if he saw Juar in the underworld. The boy shook his head. Juar has already been reborn. He and father were never truly bound as father and son. Before he was born into this house, he was actually called Yan Zifang of Jinling, a man who had unfinished business in life and came back only to reclaim an old debt. At that point, Li's face drained of color. Many years ago, he had indeed owed that man money. No one living knew, and yet the boy spoke the truth. Days later, the boy told his mother, "I found your daughter, Xiaohui. She lives happily in the underworld, married to the son of Chu Jiangwang, a great judge. She is adorned with jewels and servants all around. His mother wept. Oh, why does she not visit us? Dead souls are distant, but when reminded of their past, they can feel again. I told her about something she had once loved to do, her embroidery. She used to stitch flowers, 2 blossoms on a single stem. One time, she pricked her finger, and a drop of blood fell on the cloth. Instead of throwing it away, she cleverly worked it into the pattern, turning the red into a tiny cloud in the sky. That piece still hangs above your bed. When she heard me mention it, she burst into tears, remembering this life, and promised she would come back to see you. That night, the boys set a chair. He burned paper money at the door, speaking as if Xiaohui were seated before them. She asks if the green quilt, the one that was once burned by a candle flame, is still here. Her mother fetched it immediately. That same night, their neighbor fell into a dream so vivid it seemed real. In that dream, Xiaohui appeared, dressed as she once had in life, and she asked softly if she might borrow the neighbor's body so she could visit her parents. The neighbor agreed, and when morning came, she found herself walking, almost as if guided, straight to Li's house. There, before the astonished family, her posture, her voice, even the way she wiped her tears were no longer her own, but Xiaohui's. She spoke to her parents as their lost daughter, weeping with them, offering comfort, and for a brief moment, the family felt she had truly returned. Then, just as suddenly, the presence faded, leaving the neighbor exhausted on the floor, and Xiaohui was gone once more. Some months later, Li fell deathly ill. To everyone else, the room seemed empty, but to the son's eyes, 2 devils sat by his father's bed, one gripping an iron staff, the other clutching a hemp rope. The boy said, "You demons better watch out. My sister's husband is coming." He clapped his hands, laughing. "See how the devils hide like turtles beneath the bed?" Invisible to all but him, Xiaohui's husband arrived. He bound the devils and said, "I will speak to my father, the judge. You and your wife shall live 100 years more." That night, Li's fever broke. Within days, he was well again. The boy grew, studied, and by 18, passed the county exam, earning the rank of xiucai. A xiucai was the very first degree in the old imperial examination system, an achievement that meant you were recognized as a scholar. From that point on, his name was spoken with respect throughout the district. He visited homes where illness lingered, pointed out where spirits clung in shadowed corners, and burned them away with fire and ritual. Families said he saved lives, and even officials called him when strange misfortunes struck. His success gave him honor and a place in the community, for he had used his gift to help the living. But in time, that very success drew attention, for each act revealed secrets of heaven and the underworld that were meant to remain hidden. But one day, he fell ill. At first, it seemed like a simple sickness, but soon, his skin turned blotched in shades of green and purple, as if marked by unseen hands. He whispered that he was being punished. All the work he had done to help the living, healing the sick, driving out spirits, had come at a cost. For each act revealed mysteries of heaven and the underworld that mortals were not meant to hear. "I am punished," he said weakly. "I spoke too freely of the secrets of the other world. From this day on, I will never reveal them again." And from then on, he was silent. This story comes from Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio by Pu Songling. On the surface, it speaks of grief and ghosts, but at its heart, it wrestles with questions of destiny, the weight of old debts, and the bonds between parents and children that can outlast death. The story reminds us that what we owe others may follow us beyond one life, and that love too can reach across the divide of worlds. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next story.